morning to all you big cat and animal fans out there. My name is Jane and I'm a zookeeper here at the Cat Tales Wildlife Center in Spokane, Washington. And I'm going to be your tour guide today for about an hour as we go through and introduce you to all of the animals that we have here at Cat Tales. Now, Cat Tales is a non-profit organization. We are held to the same USDA standards as any large zoo. We are a little bit more intimate, and because we are considered a rescue facility for the state of Washington, we do provide emergency care and holding for any illegal and confiscated animals. And we are pretty much supported by all of you local supporters who bring in all your families here to see us, to see the cats, and the cats love it too, so I can't wait to get started with you today. Now, our very first animal I'm going to introduce you to is Tigger, and he is one of the 3 Bengal tigers that we have here at Cat Tales. Tigger here weighs about 500 pounds, which is a pretty typical size for Bengal tigers. These guys can be found in India, Bangladesh, Nepal. There's about 2,000 of them left in the wild today. They are an endangered species. However, they are very beautiful animals, and we are very happy to have Tigger here with us today. Now, our ultimate goal here at Cat Tales is to be able to rehabilitate and release as many of these animals back into the wild as we can. But for those animals like Tigger, his brother Zorro, and many of the other species you'll meet today, these animals were taken care of by people when they were younger and unable to learn the correct survival skills to be released back into the wild. So for these animals, for which this is the case, we are happy to say that at least we can provide all of the attention, the care that these animals both need and deserve. Now, Tigger here is being a very good boy for me. Here you go, Tigger. Of course, no, he's not. If you were to take your hand and spread your fingers out as far as you can, a tiger's paw is actually a little bit bigger than that. Their front paws are so big because they carry about 80% of their body weight in the front half of their body. And that's because they have to support their big old head with their 3-inch long canine teeth and all of their 18 razor sharp claws in those big old powerful shoulders. Now, tigers like Tigger here are ambush predators. Part of the reason why they have those big old powerful shoulders is because they have to be able to hunt big prey. Being from the areas I explained before, Tigger in the wild would be eating animals like oxen or buffalo, but since we don't necessarily have those kinds of animals here in the Pacific Northwest, at Cat Tales we feed a lot of our animals equine or horse meat and poultry such as boneless, skinless chicken breast meat and thigh meat and chicken necks. Tigger, come here. He's being a very good boy. Now, Tigger here, you'll notice, has a very beautiful stripe pattern, and each tiger has their own unique set of stripes. It's like their fingerprint. And my favorite fact, if you were to shave a tiger completely bald, he would have stripes on his skin as well as his fur. That's kind of interesting. Now, Tigger here and the cat you're going to meet next are actually blood brothers. And the easiest way to distinguish them from one another is to look at the black markings right above their eyes. You'll notice that Tiggers here are very pointy at the top. And I'll let you decide for yourself what Zorros look like. So I'm going to have you go ahead and follow me this way, and I'll introduce you to Tigger's brother Zorro. So this is Tigger's brother Zorro, and he is also about 500 pounds. And you'll notice that the black markings right above his eyes there look just a little bit different than Tigger's. Now, I don't know if you can see it very well, but when Zorro here takes these chicken necks from me, you can kind of tell that he's got little barbs on his tongue. Now, a lot of you, I'm sure, have cats at home, and you know that they groom themselves. Similar to domestic cats, the big tigers as well also have little barbs on their tongue called denticles, and that's how they both groom themselves and strip meat from the bone. Now, another cool fact about Bengal tigers is that they also have their own unique set of whiskers. And these whiskers are made out of the same material as your fingernails. It's called keratin. It feels very stiff, but it's very important to these tigers that they keep their whiskers because they act as feelers in the wild. So they'll use these whiskers to find the most easy and quiet and effective path to stalk their prey. Now, tigers will only successfully hunt 1 out of 10 times, so you'll notice as we go along that some of our tigers have a little bit of carry weight here. I promise they're not fat. It's just because in the wild they'd be using that little extra pouch there to expand their tummies to hold up to 70 or 80 pounds of food in one go. Now that's a lot of food. That's almost all of me. Now Zorro here too, just like most of our cats here, as you'll notice, have little white dots on the backs of their ears. That's very important, and I'll get to that as we go along too. One of the first things that I learned here at Cat Tales was not to wear a lot of the color black. And that's because tigers can't gauge the depth of that color very well. That's why they have their stripes. They're both camouflaged from their prey and from other tigers as well. So when Zorro, say for instance, he's in the wild hunting a wild buffalo, if he's paying attention to that buffalo and nothing else around him because he's so hungry for dinner, if he has another cat coming up behind him, that cat is actually going to see a pair of eyes in the back of his head instead of ears. These guys are apex predators from the tips of their ears all the way down to the tip of their tail. And Zorro here, I think, is ready to show off. I have one final trick I want to show you. Zorro. Zorro. Big tiger. And back down. Good boy. Now Zorro here, when he stands up like that, is about 7 feet tall. That's huge. That's almost as tall as a basketball player. But he is not our largest cat. So I'm gonna bring you on this way and I'll get to introduce you to some of those in just a moment. So next to Tigger and Zorro here is my friend Nolan. And Nolan, as you'll see, is a royal white Bengal tiger, and he is beautiful. Now, Nolan here is also a Bengal tiger. I was explaining earlier that tigers have stripes on their skin as well as their fur. And it's actually a gene that they get from both parents that makes it harder for white tigers to produce enough of that pigment, that coloration in their skin to make their fur grow orange. So Nolan here is just like Tigger and Zorro, except that he is more like a rarer, blonde-haired, blue-eyed version of the Bengal tiger. Now there are only about 500 white Bengal tigers living today. There are no longer any white tigers in the wild. The last known wild white tiger's name was Mohan, and he was captured in 1950 by Indian royalty and donated to the National Zoo in Washington, D.C. At that point, they didn't know how the recessive gene in the white tiger's bodies worked, and so he was put into a program where they got to study how that worked, so that we now know today how wonderful these creatures really are. Now, Nolan here was donated to us from another facility in California. Like I said before, these cats are apex predators from the tips of their tails, or excuse me, their ears, all the way down to the tips of their tails. They have really sensitive hearing, taste, smell, touch. Now, Nolan here was actually getting very uncomfortable in his home there. It was too loud for him, being stuck with all that traffic, and he was actually becoming very aggressive. Now, these cats are very big and they do have the potential to be dangerous, so we never go in with these animals directly. If his first thought wasn't, she looks like a tasty snack, it might be that he wants to sit on me, and I don't know about you, but he weighs a little bit more than the boys at almost 600 pounds, and I'd rather he didn't sit on me. However, the people at the facility before that were taking very good care of him knew that we might be a better fit for him. So 3 years ago, Nolan came to us and joined our Cat Tales family. He is very majestic, but he also has the great potential to be a super big goofball. He loves to swim, as do most tigers. They in fact actually have webbed toes, and that's how they would swim in the wild. On desperate occasions, they can even hunt fish if they had to. Nolan, come here. Say hello to our audience. You'll also notice he's got very beautiful big eyes. Sit down, Nolan. There you go. I'll just let you admire his beauty. And next to some of our largest cat species, we have one of our smallest cat species. This is Amala. You can't see it because she's very interested in the treats I'm about to give her, but she has a very short tail, for which the bobcats are named, a bobbed tail. Now, she is very ferocious, and all of our bobcats actually came to us from people who tried to own them as pets before they came here. Now, bobcats weigh anywhere from about 20 to 40 pounds, and their short tails are characteristic of bird hunting pets. So a typical diet for Amala in the wild would be rabbits, mice, birds. However, in the wintertime when they're desperate and there's no birds, rabbits, or mice around for her to catch, she can bring down a deer, which is 4 times her size. She's got extra sharp claws, and she's very ferocious when it comes to treats, and that's part of the reason why they would make very good pets at home with children, other pets, or even adults. Now, Amala here still has the potential to be very sweet, and unlike the tigers, has the ability to purr when she's feeling happy or feeling content. Now you'll notice that Amala here has a very beautiful brown coat. Fun fact, in the summertime when they shed out their winter coat, bobcats will turn brown in order to blend in with their environment. And in the wintertime, will turn silver to blend in with the snow. Another cool fact about bobcats is that they are very versatile animals. They can live in a very wide range of habitats. That includes deserts, swamps, grasslands, and forests. If you take a look at her paws, her ears, and actually her tail as well, bobcats and lynx do come from the same family, but those are a few of the key differences between the two species. Bobcats actually have smaller feet, smaller ear tufts, and a different colored tail, and that would be the easiest way to tell them apart. And the reason for that being because, like I said, they have a wide range of habitats versus lynx, who can live in one specialized habitat. And I'll get to that more as I introduce you to Sibella, our Canada lynx, just down the line here. Now, Amala here is very beautiful. She's about 7 or 8 years old. And just like the tigers, anywhere from 10 to 12 years old is actually old for these cats in the wild. However, her neighbor Jacoby over here, whom I will introduce you to, is actually our oldest cat. And a very good example of what I told you earlier about how these cats can live to be twice their age here with us at Cat Tales. Jacoby here is actually 20 years old, and as you can see is also a little bit more on the chunky side. These cats are opportunistic hunters, which means that they'll eat more often than the tigers will. They are more successful, and they like to be up high. However, when Jacoby came to us, his owners did not know that and actually overfed him. So unlike the tigers, Jacoby has a little bit of extra carry weight. He's just a little chunky. Hello, Jacoby. Now, Jacoby, you'll notice, does have a little bit longer ear tufts than Amala does. It does vary by individual. Here we go. And so does their food drive. So next to our bobcats is actually another species of small cat. Now this is Jewel. She is a 13-year-old puma, and she weighs about 120 pounds or so, and she doesn't look like she would be a very small cat. However, the distinction between big cats and small cats is their ability to show affection, and in this case, pumas actually purr, and they cannot roar. They make a lot of sounds like screaming, mewing, chirping, purring, but they cannot roar, so that's why they're still considered small cats, even though they weigh anywhere from about 100 to 150 pounds. Here, Cody. Now, I don't know if you guys know this. Do any of you know the difference between a puma and a mountain lion? Well, it's actually a trick question. Pumas, mountain lions, cougars are actually all the same type of cat. Just like the bobcats, the pumas here are actually very versatile and live in the widest range of habitats of any of the cats. They can be found all the way from the southern tip of South America up into Canada, and it just depends on where you're from, what you call them. So here in the Pacific Northwest, we call them puma, mountain lion, cougar, but they can also be called catamount, Mexican tiger, Florida panther, you name it. And depending on how warm the region is, the smaller the cat will get, and the colder the region is, the larger the cat will get. Now, there's an example of those noises I was telling you about. Now, Jewel here is a grandma. Hey, Joey. And you'll notice that she's actually missing the tip of her right ear. Now that's very unusual for these cats. She actually lost it to frostbite when she fell asleep against a window at her previous facility. Now that's unusual because these cats, like I said, can live in a very wide range of habitats, so it's unusual for them to be susceptible to the elements like that. These cats also like to be very high up in the trees. Their tails are very long for that purpose. They use them as a counterbalance when they're running, jumping, and climbing. So we have a lot of folks that come into the park and say, this is why kids, when you're out hiking or in the backyard, you always need to make sure you're looking up into the trees and not down at your feet. Now the pumas aren't going to come after you, but it's just very important to make sure that you realize when you're out in nature that you're in these animals' homes, and that it's important to take only pictures and leave only footprints. Now Jewel here, just like the other cats in our facility, also eats equine and chicken. However, in the wild, she would be hunting for things like small mammals, mice, rabbits, you name it, birds, deer fawns, and turkeys. Anything you can think of that they would be able to find in their natural habitat. So I told you before that I would get to introduce you to a Canada lynx today, and this is Sibella, the one and only. You'll notice that her paws are so much bigger than the bobcat's, her ear tufts longer, and her tail looks a little bit different. Now a lynx's tail is black all the way around the tip of the tail, versus a bobcat's tail has black on the top and white on the bottom. So say for instance you're driving or hiking out somewhere and you see one cross the trail in front of you. The easiest way to tell these guys apart is to look at their tail. Now this here is my fellow keeper Lisa, and she played a very important role in Sibella's life. Sibella is about 2 years old now, and Lisa made sure that she grew up to be a very happy and healthy girl. Sibella loves her chicken neck. That's one of her favorite snacks. So just like the bobcats, lynx are specialized to hunt birds and small mammals, and their preferred prey source is the horseshoe hare. And that is because these cats are specialized to live in northern arboreal climates where it's snowy all the time. That's why their paws are so much bigger than the bobcats. They actually use them as snowshoes. And their preferred prey source is also specialized to live in that climate as well. And that is why they kind of live off one another there. These are the big eyes that I was telling you about. We have 2 male Siberian tigers here with us at Cat Tales, and this is one of them. This guy's name is Tuga, and he weighs about 725 pounds. He is a huge tiger. Now you'll notice, just like his sister Amala, whom you got to meet earlier, he has a really big ruff around his neck. His front paws are huge, and he carries all that extra weight in the front half of his body. Now, I don't know if I'll be able to get him to do it because it is such a chore to bring all of that weight up and over. But the Siberian tigers not only have a little bit extra weight, more than the Bengal tigers, but they also stand at about 9 feet tall when they're on their back legs. They also have larger canine teeth, where the Bengals have 3-inch long canines. The Siberian tigers have about 3.5-inch long canines. And if you were to add the root of the tooth to that, their teeth would be 5 inches long. Now Tuga here, his brother Koshka and their sister Sestra all have Russian names as a hat tip to their natural heritage, being from Russia. Tuga here, his name means fast with difficulty, mostly because he's the largest of the siblings, but also because when he was little and these guys played together, his brother actually followed suit behind him after jumping off of a crate and landed on his leg, and Tuga had to be in a cast for a while, and that made it really hard for him to keep up with some of his siblings. But as you can see, he grew up to be a happy and healthy boy, and he's got all of his big old strong legs together. Now his brother Koshka, if you want to come this way with me, just cracks me up because Koshka actually means kitten in Russian, and I don't know about you, but Koshka here is the largest kitten that I have ever seen. Hi, Koshka. Now, just like people do, cats actually have a muscle in their arm that allows them to perform a motion like this. It's called supination. So unlike dogs or horses or any other mammal you might be able to think of like these guys, they cannot perform that motion. That's what makes it so much easier for them to grab and hold on to their prey. It also means that if you watch closely, you can tell which hand is dominant with the tigers. Fun fact, we have a lot of left-handed tigers. This gal here is Koshka and Tuga's immediate sister. Her her name is Sestra, and ironically, Sestra in Russian also means sister. And she is a very beautiful girl. Now, Sestra here is extremely friendly today, and she's actually exhibiting signs for what we would call estrus. It's a cycle in the cat's life where they're looking for a mate, where they're looking for someone to produce cubs with. Now, Sestra being super friendly like this is not abnormal. She does this all the time. And her way of saying hello is also to chuff, so it's kind of a mix of estrus and her very friendly personality. Now, these cats do have the potential to be dangerous, not only with us, but also with each other. So as we've gone along, I'm sure you're wondering why we keep all of our animals separate. And that's just because cats in the wild actually prefer to be by themselves. Of course, they'll grow up together with their siblings, but once they reach full maturity at around anywhere from about 2 to 2.5 years old, they'll eventually branch off on their own and go live in their own territories. These animals are very large, and so they have to be able to defend a large territory with a lot of large prey. Now, we are very lucky to have Sestra, Koshka, Tuga, and all of the other tigers here with us at Cat Tales. Siberian tigers are actually a lot more endangered than the Bengal tigers are. There are so few left in the wild that we actually don't have a correct estimate of how many are left. And the reason being that people are moving more and more into their territory, that these large cats are unable to defend a larger territory, that they have to compete with less prey with more tigers, which is a hard thing to do, on top of also having to protect themselves from poachers. Now, Sestra here was actually born with another sister as well. Unfortunately, we've been open for about 30 years, and so some of our animals have come and gone in that time. And her sister's name was Malenki, and Malenki means small in Russian. Now, that meant that Tuga, Koshka, Sestra, and Malenki were born in a litter of 4 tigers, and that's also unusual. Typically, these cats are only born in litters of 2 or 3. And these cats were born here at Cat Tales. Their mother and father's names were Samson and Delilah. Now, Samson and Delilah were rescued from a gentleman who was keeping them as pets, which is not a good thing to do. Which meant that when these guys were born here at Cat Tales, with their mom being a captive tiger, she gave up on taking care of them at 10 days old. So at that point, these animals actually had to be bottle fed by people. Now, the only reason we bred Delilah and Samson was because the species is so endangered. There were other large facilities that were asking us for tiger cub donations in order to widen their gene pool within their own breeding program, just so that they're not breeding related tigers. Now, the deal fell through with these guys, and we were able to keep all of them, which we were super excited to do, mostly because these are very, very important animals to show off to the public, to the world, to let them know that these beautiful animals are in existence and we need to take care of them. But also because Sestra here is probably one of our prettiest girly girls in the zoo. Now, I explained just a minute ago that most of our animals are solitary by nature, but there is one species of cat that actually likes to live together in family groups, and that would be the lion. I'm sure all of you have seen The Lion King, and I am so happy to introduce you to Nala. Now, she is queen if you were to ask her, and her entire name, if she had a choice in the matter, it's Nala Nadine today, everybody in the world. Here you go, Nolly. Now, unfortunately, we don't have any other lions with us here at Cat Tales at this moment, so she is by herself. However, all of our cats here at Cat Tales have dubbed themselves a big old family, and Nala here is the alpha female of this entire group. Now, just like in the wild, they do have a hierarchy within their prides in the African savannas where our African lioness Nala would be from. Typically, a pride is made up of 1 or 2 males with their big old flowing manes and anywhere from 10 to 12 females. Now, those big old manes on the males are also unique to their species, and they serve 2 purposes. The first one being that they have to act as a shield for when these big cats fight for dominance in their pride. So they protect these animals' throats and underbellies and heads from flying teeth and claws when they're protecting their family from intruders. It also means that it's a good indicator for the females to tell them whether or not these male lions would be good fathers to their children. So the darker and more illustrious and beautiful the mane is, the more likely the female is to decide that he would be a strong companion for her cubs. Now, lions are also the only species of cat that have a tufted tail, and this serves another purpose as well. So in the African savanna, the grasses are very tall, and when these lions have their cubs, they have to be able to follow mom somehow, and these lions will use their tails as flags so that the babies can follow along with mama. Now, lions are actually born with spots on them as a sort of natural camouflage, and as they grow older, those spots kind of dissipate into their fur. If you notice on Nala, she actually has a few on her arms and on her underbelly as well. And I think she's just gorgeous. And just like people, the longer you stand out of the sun, you'll notice the more freckles you get on your skin. Well, there are researchers out in the wild who can identify how old a lion is based on how many freckles they get on their nose. Because the older a lion gets, the more freckles they'll get on their nose, just like us and our freckles. Now, I'm not an expert in that, but I can tell you that Nala here is 10 years old, and she was actually rescued with Tigger and Zorro, the very first Bengal tigers I introduced you to. They did grow up together and eventually had to be separated at maturity so that they didn't have cubs together. Now, do most of you know what a liger is? So they have a lion father and a tiger mother. Well, in this case, if Nala were to have had babies with either Tigger or Zorro, they would be called tigons. And the only difference is that they would have had a tiger father and a lion mother. Now, what most people don't realize is that lions are also endangered for the same reason that the Siberian tigers are endangered, that the Bengal tigers are endangered. More and more people are entering into their territory and making it harder for these guys to find prey. What I most recently learned too is that lions can also scavenge as well as hunt. And most people know that the females do a lot of the hunting. And that kind of goes back to the big manes I was telling you about. The male lions use those manes to protect themselves, but it also makes them very hot. These cats in the summertime will sleep anywhere from 16 to 20 hours in a day, and when you have all that extra fur, if you think about it, wearing a fur coat 24/7 would make you really hot. And that's part of the reason why the males stay back to protect the young and the sick and the elderly, while the healthy young females go out and catch all of the prey and bring it back. Now, Nala here is very loud on occasion. Depending on how she pitches her voice, she can be heard up to 5 miles around, which is an incredible, incredible distance. Now, she will roar in the morning. Like I said, she is queen. She'll roar in the morning to get everyone up. She'll say, you know, everybody, tigers, bobcats, pumas, you better get up or the keepers are going to get you up, and you're not going to like that. She'll also roar at dinner time and when the train goes by as well, because she can't let anyone be louder than her. Hey, Nala. Now, just like the other cats I'm sure you've been watching as we've been going, like the tigers, the bobcats, and even the pumas, Nala here also has little spots on the backs of her ears. Hers aren't white like the rest of the cats we've seen before, but they still serve the same purpose. The extra black on the back of her ears makes it easier for another competitive lion behind her to think that she's got eyes in the back of her head. Nala here is also very strong. She's got about 5 times the strength, pound for pound, as a professional athlete. So when we're cleaning with her, it's important that she doesn't get a hold of the hose, because if we start playing tug of war, she's going to win. Now, Nala here weighs about as much as Amala. She's about 450 pounds, which is actually big for this species of cat. In the wild, they wouldn't be eating as much as Nala here does. She eats about 15 pounds of food in a day. And because of that, she's been able to grow a lot bigger than her natural cousins in the wild would be. Right, Nala? She's also got 18 razor-sharp claws, including 4 on each foot, and an extra dew claw on her 2 front feet that kind of make it look like she's got thumbs. Nala girl. She also has the prettiest eyelashes of any of the cats. In addition to all of the cats we have at Cat Tales, we also have a wide variety of other local species like black bears and canines. This includes Oscar here. Fun fact, even though Oscar is brown, he's actually considered a black bear. He's a very good example of the different coat color variations within their species. So black bears, although more typically black, can also be brown, cinnamon, and sometimes even a blonde color. Now, unlike the cats, bears are considered to be omnivores, which means they'll eat pretty much anything and everything. Our bears here at Cat Tales are actually vegetarians. We feed them a vegetarian diet just to sort of mimic a natural diet for a black bear in the wild. Now, Oscar here, being a black bear, is actually a smaller bear within the bear family. So the very first thing that a bear cub will learn from his mother is how to mock charge and then run away. Now, these bears will only be about 600 pounds when they are at their largest, unlike their grizzly cousins who can be up to 1,000 pounds. And since they are a little bit smaller than their grizzly cousins, often don't hunt more than the grizzlies would. And that's, again, part of the reason why we feed them a vegetarian diet here at Cat Tales. Now, in the wild, these bears would be looking for things like nuts, berries, grasses, roots, insects, and on very special occasions, might even hunt a deer fawn or some fish. So a typical diet for Oscar here at Cat Tales is actually seasonal fruits and vegetables like strawberries, which is what I'm feeding him with here now. But he also likes grapes and watermelon and cherries. He also likes peanut butter sandwiches, which is how we give him his vitamins. Don't tell him. And then all of the extra protein and carbohydrates that he needs in his diet actually comes from a specialized bear kibble that we give to him. You'll notice too, when he was taking treats from me earlier, Oscar actually has a longer face than the cats do. He almost looks more like a dog. And the reason for that being is that his eyes are very small. But what he lacks in sight, he actually makes up for in smell. A bear's sense of smell is so strong that he can smell food up to 2 miles away, which is pretty incredible. That's a very long way. He also has very special claws. Unlike the cats, his claws are actually non-retractable, which means that he can't pull them in and out like a cat would. And he actually uses those big long claws of his to dig and to climb. These bears are denning animals, and I'm sure most of you know, because you're very smart, that bears will hibernate in the winter. Their bodies will go to sleep for about 3 months, and then they will wake up in the springtime when there's more food available. Now, Oscar here came to Cat Tales when he was a very small baby. He only weighed about 20 pounds where he should have weighed 100 pounds, excuse me. And being a rescue bear, he actually didn't learn how to hibernate from his mom. So most bears actually have their cubs later in the season and will immediately den with them in the wintertime and sleep for the first 3 months. Now, Oscar here did not have that opportunity since he didn't have a mama when he was rescued from the garbage can. That's the name Oscar, for Oscar the Grouch. And because of that, our bears here at Cat Tales don't hibernate like bears in the wild would. Their bodies will actually slow down just a little bit, so they will go to sleep most of the day, but they'll still get up to eat, go to the bathroom, and get some water. So it's not true hibernation. It's kind of an interesting word. It's called extended torpor, which is where their metabolism slows down, but they don't actually sleep all the way through the winter time. Now, bears like Oscar here do love to swim, just like our tigers. One of his favorite summertime activities is actually to get into the pool and then sunbathe on his platform up here. And also to take treats from his favorite zookeepers. One of his favorite treats is actually whipped cream. Bears are very much sweet. They have a very big sweet tooth, that's for sure. And that's why they often look for things such as berries and grasses. So in addition to all the cats we have at Cat Tales, I just introduced you to some of the bears, but we also have a couple of canines here as well, including Aquila here. Now, Aquila here is actually a wolf dog hybrid. And she takes treats from me, very sweet, but wolf dog hybrids are actually illegal to own in the state of Washington. The reason being is because you'll never know when their wolf instincts will actually show themselves. Now, Aquila here looks mostly husky, and that's because she is. Being a wolf hybrid, she's got mostly dog in her, but she also has a little bit of timber wolf in her as well. And it definitely shows itself when she's eating. She'll eat about 3 pounds of food in 20 seconds. I don't think she even chews it. And again, she eats the same thing as all of our other animals here. So she gets equine and chicken, sometimes even beef. But she also likes regular treats. And she also likes howling just like a wolf as well. So when the fire trucks across the street from Cattails here get going, Aquila cannot help herself. It's a natural wolf instinct to want to answer that siren call. That's how in the wild they would communicate with one another, tell each other that they're hurt, or to tell each other that they found something that they want the whole pack to know about. Now Aquila here, if I had to pick, would be our alpha female, and we do have another wolf hybrid whom I will introduce you to in just a moment. Alrighty, so just like Aquila, we do have one more wolf dog hybrid. This is Gray, appropriately named because she is 50% gray wolf. Now, just like Aquila, both of these wolf dogs were actually surrendered to us by their owners who could no longer take care of them properly as wolf dog hybrids. Now, there are certain aspects about these guys that might make them dangerous to live within a family. In Gray's instance, she actually lived with another small dog and a couple of children. And so in order to keep their family safe, to make sure that her neighborhood was safe and that Gray was getting all the proper attention and maintenance that she needed, she was surrendered here to Cat Tales. Now, most large zoos will not take wolf dog hybrids because they have to be 100% wolf and part of their large zoo family. But since we are a nonprofit and rescue facility for the state of Washington, we'll take care of anybody that needs it. Now, Gray here, if she had anything to say about it, would love to be alpha female, but like I said, Aquila definitely starts the howl, Gray jumps in next, and then the coyotes follow suit after them. Now, similar to the wolf dogs, coyotes are just a smaller version, and they are scavengers as well, and typically hunt by themselves in the daytime, but can group together in packs during the evening so that they can hunt. Now, the cool thing about these canines is that they are considered omnivores. So in the wild, coyotes like Cody Coyote here, of course we had to have a Cody Coyote, will be looking for things not only like small mammals such as rabbits and mice, but also for fruits, vegetables, grasses, roots, and insects. And they'll travel anywhere from 8 to 12 miles in a day to find food, which is, again, a very long way. And last but definitely not least are our two puma babies, Hope and Jackson. Now, these guys are only a couple months old, but you can see how much they've grown. They look almost as big as their counterparts that we saw earlier. They are actually the grandchildren of Jewel, whom I got the pleasure of introducing you to earlier. This guy here is Jackson, and his sister Hope is hanging out over there. And these guys just recently lost their spots. Now, just like lions, mountain lions also have spots when they're born. Again, a natural camouflage for when mom can't keep her eyes on them at all times. And as they grow older, those spots actually dissipate into their fur. Now, you can tell how much bigger these guys are going to grow by looking at their paws and their ears, especially Hope's brother Jackson. These cats are more likely from a line of cats that were from a colder part of the world, and so they're actually going to be a lot larger than, say, cats from Central America. So at this point, my tour is now over, but I had such a wonderful time introducing you to all of the furry family that we have here at Cat Tales. Again, my name is Jane. I've been a zookeeper here at Cat Tales for about 2 years, and I actually graduated from the Cat Tales student training program that we have here. We also have student and internship opportunities available, and if you're looking to donate, go ahead and follow us on social media like Facebook and Instagram, where you can follow along with us live with pictures of all of our cats. If you had a favorite today as well, we also offer a sponsorship, a one-time sponsorship or an adoption program, in which case you would be able to donate in order to make sure that your animal, your favorite animal that you saw today, is getting all the appropriate medical care and food that they need and deserve. So when we are open to the general public again, we would love to be able to see you. Have a great day.